With us now to talk about all of that, former director of the CIA, and former Secretary of Defense, Leon Panetta. Hi, Secretary Panetta. A pleasure to welcome you back to our program. Thank you very much for making the time.
Good to be with you.
I have to start off on the latest comments from the president where Greenland is concerned. He was asked in a press conference today how far he's willing to go to, quote, acquire Greenland. He replied, "You will find out." What do you take from that?
Well, it's obvious that the president is trying to bully his way into taking over Greenland, and the problem with that is that when others decide to stand up to him, it's going to make it very difficult for him to continue to try to threaten others with tariffs or military action or whatever. So I think this is not a good tactic for the president of the United States to use if he wants to get something done when it comes to national security.
Do you anticipate, if he continues to employ this kind of rhetoric, that NATO allies, including Canada, including much of Europe, will stand up to him? Certainly, I would denote, compared to other issues, they have taken a much harder line against the president.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that the European countries are unified in standing up to President Trump. If necessary, they'll get into a tariff war, which could hurt the economy here in this country and certainly increase the affordability problem. So I'm not sure that the president really wants to create that kind of economic problem as we go into an election year. But we'll see. I think the most important thing is that Europe has every right to stand up together in opposition to what the president is trying to do in Greenland.
Do you think that that is a smart course of action on the part of NATO allies? And do you think it will ultimately result in disincentivizing Trump to do whatever he is thinking about doing? Like, ultimately, do you think it will work if they stand up to him?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's any question that, when bullies threaten others, if you stand up to bullies, they usually back off. And I think this is that kind of situation. If Europe is unified, if they threaten to take action with regards to a tariff war with the United States that could damage our economy, I just do not believe that the president wants to go through that kind of conflict, particularly as we go into an election year.
What do you think, more largely, the fact that this is even a conversation that we're having about one, NATO ally versus another means for the alliance itself, as someone who, spent a lot of time representing the United States there?
Well, I happen to believe that that one of the most important alliances that the United States has is with NATO. It was created after World War II. It was critical to stopping the Soviet Union. It has been a critical alliance for countries that have been willing to stand up to Russia, particularly in Ukraine. I think NATO is a very important alliance. And the last thing the United States should be doing is taking any kind of action that could undermine NATO. That'll only hurt the United States, and it'll hurt the cause for protecting our national security.
As you look at the state of NATO right now, do you believe it can withstand all of this pressure from the United States? Like, is it strong enough to?
No, I think people are beginning to understand how you deal with President Trump, and the only way you deal with him is when he bullies you, when he threatens you. You have to stand up to them. And you have to make clear that you're not going to back away. And that's what Europe's doing. That's what NATO's doing. And I think it's the right tactic in terms of making clear to President Trump that rather than bullying, he ought to be negotiating to try to develop a common approach to protecting national security.
I know you know world leaders are all descending on Davos right now, and our prime minister here in Canada is among them. He delivered a speech today in which he essentially eulogized the pre-Trump rules-based world order. And I'm wondering, from your perspective, as you know, someone who was at the highest levels of the U.S. government and now sort of sees the position of the U.S. in the world and the positions that Donald Trump has taken, if you think this is, you know, a rupture, something that will not change or go back, we will not go back from, or whether you think this is less permanent.
Oh, I don't think there's any question that that this is something that is a temporary disruption because of how President Trump is behaving. But in the end, I think this president understands that the last thing he needs is to undermine NATO. The last thing he needs is to engage in a tariff war with Europe. The last thing he needs is to basically help Russia and China, who really do want to break up the relationship between the United States and our European allies. I think in the end, you know, he'll pound his shoe on the table, but the end result is going to be that he cannot continue to bully the rest of the world and be successful.
And yet he does continue to do so. Can you blame countries like Canada, who sort of feel like they have to view it as more permanent than perhaps a lot of Americans would like to see it?
Yeah, no, I understand. If I were in Canada's shoes, I would take a position that makes clear that we have to stand up, and we cannot just simply collapse because the president is trying to bully his way to whatever goal he has in mind. So I commend Canada. I commend the European countries that are willing to unify and stand up and make clear that these kinds of bullying tactics are not going to succeed, period. It'll take a lot of work. It'll take a lot of effort. But in the end, I think it's the right path to take.
If you were here, how worried would you be as the president, you know, posts a picture yesterday, for example, of Canada and Greenland with an American flag, or we see reporting in this country that our military is thinking of various scenarios in which it might have to defend this country against some sort of, you know, intervention from the United States from a military perspective. I mean, it would be an absurd conversation for us to have when you were in office in your capacity as Secretary of Defense. How seriously should we be taking it right now?
Look, we live in a dangerous world, and the United States is facing threats from Russia, particularly in Ukraine, facing threats from China, facing threats from North Korea, facing threats from Iran, facing threats from terrorists. Those are the national security threats that we ought to be confronting. Rather than going after Canada, rather than going after Greenland, rather than trying to bully your way into gaining territory of one kind or another, that's just a huge waste of time when the rest of the world is a very dangerous place and needs, frankly, the United States to provide world leadership rather than what it's doing now.
And what's the greater impact of the fact that it isn't?
I think the impact is that it's hurting our credibility in the world. And that's not a good thing, because if the United States decides to go it alone, to be isolationist from the rest of the world, that'll only hurt our national security.
Okay, Secretary Panetta, I'll leave it on that note. Thank you for your insights this evening. I appreciate them very much.
You bet. Thank you.